Alright everybody, it's about 12:34. I'm heading back to my house for lunch. It only should take me 6 minutes at least to get there. And no one really said anything because primarily 12:30 is my lunch hour. And I did slow down enough to where I could tell people, hey, I'm closed, and shut down my lane and put my putbacks and everything. They can't really say anything about it because, as I've said before, in another audio video you can listen to, there's absolutely no overtime whatsoever. Even when it means going to lunch, you cannot stay over your lunch hour or beyond your scheduled lunch, or else you'll get in trouble. But anyway, that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm actually here to talk about I'm here to talk about something that, some people have been talking about over at DeviantArt and at other sites. And that is the possibility of certain characters making a comeback in the new continuity. Now, we've already gotten hints that Lupe and Loop of the Wolfpack and Dulcie will be making appearances. We pretty much were hinted that by Nicole when she talked to Sally. I think it was I think about issue, what was it, about 257, around 257, 258 is when she talked to her and mentioned their names. And that right there kind of gave fans a little bit of hope, like, hey, if these characters are coming back in the future, what about the other ones? What about these other characters that are not Pender characters, or not possibly connected to Ken Penders in any way? And these people have a good reason to want to feel that way, because this is an opportunity for them to basically get what they've been wanting. Since this new continuity, this new soft retcon, reboot, whatever you want to call it, took place. So, yeah, that's basically what it is. And basically, here's the situation there. Here's the situation. You have characters like Loop and Dulcie, like I said, who are bound to make a comeback in the future. There's no denying that. I mean, if they're mentioned, they're name dropped in the book, pretty much confirms they're going to be showing up again. But what about characters like, let's say, Fiona? What about her? What about, like I said, some of the non-Ken Pender characters that we don't see right now? What about them? Well, there's a lot of speculation as to what is going to happen to them and what will be of them in the near future. Just like with the characters themselves, the main freedom. Just like with the main freedom fighter characters themselves, it's kind of hard not to imagine that these characters are going to get origin background changes in the future, which is true. They're probably going to get some origin background changes in the near future. Now you might wonder, well, why would they do that? And the answer is real simple, folks. It's because Archie can. And so can Ian Flynn, especially when it comes to this reboot. This retcon, pretty much opens the door for anything to happen and for lots of changes, mostly background changes, to occur to the characters. And that is pretty much what's bound to happen. With Loop, we don't know what her origin's going to be again. It may be similar to what it was in the past. And, it may be different, for all we know. For all we know, Lupe can end up being a teenager now instead of just an adult. Someone that's older than Sally and Sonic. Basically someone that's like the superior in a lot of ways. Yeah, about 6 minutes, pretty much what I figured. It's 12:40 now, I'm home. So yeah, pretty much what I figured. I'm gonna take my shoes, I'm gonna put my stuff up right now and take my shoes off. It's not that because I'm home permanently, it's just because I'm home because I need to be home. And my dog's acting like she's not surprised to see me. That's the one thing about this. I'm not trying to get off topic here, but it seems that dogs don't really get too excited when you're gone just for a few hours and they know you're going to come home soon. But again, like I said, it's not going to surprise me. It's not going to surprise me whatsoever if it's not going to surprise me whatsoever should Lupe's origin change in some manner. It's not really going to surprise me, and I'm not going to be surprised either way if she's rebooted or softly rebooted or retconned. Like I said, to be about the same age as Sonic and Sally, basically a teenager. I mean, look what they did with Mutsky, Sonic's pet dog. Who would have thought they were going to say, hey, let's turn Mutsky into a Mobian? And you're like, what? Huh? What do you mean Mobian? And that's basically what it is. They turned him into a Mobian because they wanted to. They wanted to turn him into a Mobian. And why? Because anything goes with this new soft retcon reboot. Instead of just softly retconning the world and softly rebooting the world to be similar to the games, why not softly retcon and reboot the characters as well? Why not softly retcon and softly reboot the backgrounds and the origins? Why not go in that direction? And that's exactly what they've done. Which again, as I have said, would not surprise me if they go in a direction where, they have, again, it's not going to surprise me if they go in a direction where they have it revealed that, I apologize for the noise there, I'm getting myself some lunch. One of the reasons I like to come home at lunch when I have the opportunity, because I save money. But anyway, like I said, basically what I'm trying to say here, and I know I sound like I'm rambling and I apologize. It basically, to me, I would not be surprised if, Ian Flynn reintroduces Loop as a teenager. Basically, that's what he changes about her. He changes her to where she can be on equal level with Sonic and Sally and the others. And, here she is as a teenager. She's growing up with them. She's also a leader, but she's sort of like a leader in training. She's a leader that's destined basically to be Grand Chief someday. And that could be a reference to the old continuity. But like I said, this time around, she can end up being possibly softly retconned and rebooted into a teenager. And that wouldn't surprise me. I don't think it'll surprise any of you guys if that happens. So, again, like I said, I would not be surprised that occurs. One thing I know, one thing I'm pretty much sure of that could happen with Dulcie, and okay, before I get to Dulcie, I know you're going to say, well, is that all you think about what's going to happen with Loop? Definitely. I think she and maybe some other primary characters that only got maybe a glimpse in a being in the spotlight might be basically portrayed as teenagers now. So don't be surprised if Loop, possibly Lobo, and the Wolf twins, Lita and Lyko, are portrayed now as teenagers. That they're basically softly retconned and rebooted into that kind of situation. Don't be surprised by that. Do not be surprised. Another thing I don't think you should be surprised about is if Dulcie's origin changes a bit. Now, it could stay similar to where she's the last of the dragons and all that, and maybe her mom might be back. We don't know. Maybe that'll be part of the character background change. Maybe her mother will survive, and maybe her mother and Dulcie are in hiding, or they're basically part of a dragon freedom fighter group that they're leading. You know, maybe that's going to change. Maybe that's going to be part of the origin and character change for Dulcie. That she's going to end up being part of a dragon group of freedom fighters that assist the Knothole or the Sky Patrol freedom fighters, I guess you can call them now, on missions. So I wouldn't be surprised by that. And I wouldn't be surprised also that if they add in that she's still developing her powers, that instead of fully coming into her powers as we have seen in the Saturday morning cartoon and as we've seen in the comic, that instead she's starting to slowly come into them now that she's a teenager. That could be something as well. And then, of course, the big question I think a lot of fans have, what about Fiona? What about Fiona Fox? Where does this put her? Well, Fiona, that is a big question. To me, I look at it this way. I think with Fiona, you can go one or two ways with Fiona. Go one or two ways. You could either try to keep her the way she is. I mean, you could use the loophole that she was in another dimension, sort of in between dimensions, so she really wasn't affected. You could use that loophole. You can use that loophole, if you will. You can use that loophole. And that could work. That could work. Honestly, that could really work. But I think, honestly, if they bring Fiona back, and let's say she is softly retconned or rebooted, I see her sort of being like that anti-hero that likes to do the right thing, that has a heart of gold, if you will, and wants to see justice served, wants to do the right thing, wants to see justice served, but do it in their own way. Sort of like some of those characters you see in Marvel and DC. Like, okay, they're good people. They have hearts of gold. They want to see justice served, but yet they want to do it in their own way. Sort of like, not like a Batman, but sort of in that same description. Like she wants to see justice served. She wants to see things done right, the right thing done, and has a heart of gold, but she's doing it basically her own way. And I think that might be where Ian Flynn could go with Fiona if she ever comes back. That she could basically be that anti-hero. She could be, I wouldn't say like a Catwoman, but sort of be like that vigilante anti-hero. Someone that, like I said, has a heart of gold, wants to do the right thing, wants to see justice served, but wants to see it done, wants to do the right thing her way, and wants to see justice served her own way. That's one way, and I think the most possible way he's going to go with her. Another way is he could basically de-age her. Yeah. We've pretty much seen, like I said, with Mutsky being an example of being changed around, we could see Fiona get de-aged. We could see her be de-aged to Tails' age. And that could lead to some interesting situations. Like, I mentioned in the other audio video, that this continuity, sets up the possibility for Tails and Nicole to happen, possibly more so than ever. But if Ian Flynn didn't want to do that, didn't want to give the fans a bit of that, nod, because you kind of see that in some of the issues. He kind of gives them that nod to the Tails and Nicole shipping. He kind of gives them that nod. He kind of gives them that little bit of an Easter egg. let's say Ian Flynn doesn't want to do that, and let's say he wants to probably do the Fiona Tails deal. He could de-age Fiona as part of the soft reboot and retcon and put her with Tails. That could be done. But then again, also, he could switch things around and say that she and Scourge and the Destructives basically were protected from all the changes because they kept going from like zone to zone or zone, or basically they were in the no zone or whatever. That could be a twist too, but I don't think so. The way it's been described, everything has basically been softly rebooted and retconned. So I wouldn't be surprised if one of the two scenarios I think happens with Fiona. I think the first one said is probably the more likely one. I think she'll be that vigilante anti-heroine that has a heart of gold, wants to see justice served, and wants to see the right thing done, but wants to see the right thing done in her own way, and wants to see justice served in her own way. I think that is exactly what I see happening here with Fiona's character. I really do. And I know some of you might argue that. Some of you might say that's not going to happen. Well, you know what? It's going to happen. It's going to probably happen. Do not say it's not, because it probably will. I mean, how many of you thought that Mutsky would not? How many of you said, or probably thought, they would not do anything with like what they did with Mutsky? And yet they did. Now, what would really surprise me with Fiona, and be an ironic twist of irony, is if he doesn't go with those three scenarios, those three possible scenarios, her being the anti-hero vigilante that I mentioned in her own way, being de-aged, so the possibility of her and Tails could finally happen. And maybe even the wild card situation that her, Scourge, and Destructives are still the same and they were protected from everything, from all the changes. Let's say he doesn't go in those directions. There's a fourth possibility, and it would be an ironic twist of irony for the character, and that's to make her an egg boss. Think about it. Here's a character that betrayed the Freedom Fighters in the original timeline. Here's a character that is an assassin for hire, in a sense. Here's a character that likes to be bad. Here's someone that basically, because of her past and because of her hatred for Robotnik, Eggman, in an ironic twist of irony, in the new timeline could end up being an egg boss. One never knows. I'm just saying. So that to me would be, like I say, an ironic twist of irony for the character. I really think so. But I think that would be the wild card right there. That would be the real twister. The real surprise twist should it happen. But again, that's just my opinion. I think honestly the first thing I've mentioned about as possible change for Fiona in this new continuity is going to be her being that anti-hero vigilante. I really feel that's where they're going. I really do. And I could be wrong, but I really feel that's where they're going. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say on some of the characters I believe are going to show up or be reintroduced into this new continuity, and what I believe are going to be certain changes to them, significant changes to the characters, the backgrounds, and the origins. So let me know what you guys think. Do you agree or not? And I'm going to eat some lunch now, relax a little bit before I have to go back, and I will talk to y'all later.